Presentation is on portable power tool safety and hand tool safety. This is one of those real basic safety courses. But when you really dive into the subject matter, there's a lot here. And when we dive into looking at the injuries that we see come in for workers' compensation claims, hand tools are a source of a lot of those. And so we think this is an important session for everybody because sooner or later, every one of us will use one of these hand tools. And many of you may have used them over the weekend, like I did, and you'll probably be using those during the week. So let's dive in. I got a lot of stuff to go through. So we're going to hit this pretty quickly today. Like I said, hand tools cause many injuries, or the misuse of hand tools causes many injuries day in, day out. And so our goal today is to help you learn or remember how to be safe in using these hand tools and portable power tools. Always safety first and safety always. Know your tools. Know what the tools are that you're using. Know how to use it. Know what the hazards are that are presented by that particular tool. And always wear your proper personal protective equipment. Keep your clothing under control so you don't get wrapped up in a tool. Keep your hair under control so it doesn't get wrapped up in one of these tools. Simple rules that will keep us safe day in, day out. Let's talk about some of the hazards that these hand tools present to us. A defective or a damaged tool is a dangerous tool. Not using the tool for its intended purpose. If you use that crescent wrench as a hammer, it's not a hammer, and you're at risk. And not using the tools the way the manufacturer specified, taking guards off of tools, and maybe not taking a look before you use the tool to see if there's a problem with it. All of these things can be hazards to you and cause you injury if you're not paying attention. Additional hazards that we may see. Sometimes when we use a tool, we're going to create dusts or gases that come from that. Silica, free crystalline silica can get into your lungs and cause silicosis, and that can be a fatal condition. Other things like carbon monoxide from gas-fired equipment can cause carbon monoxide poisoning and literally kill us. And then you've got sparks that can cause fires. You've got chips that can come off and get in your eye. All kinds of different hazards can come from these hand tools or portable power tools. Personal protective equipment is really key, and it can be really over the top. Like, well, I'm going to go use a chainsaw, and so I need all of the things that are in this picture, including those Kevlar shaps in case the blade comes in contact with my leg, that will stop the blade. Or it could be really simple things. Probably the most important piece of safety equipment, and according to Norm Abram, the most important piece of safety equipment are these safety glasses. And always wear those safety glasses. I'm using a hammer. I'm using some simple hand tools. Well, guess what? Parts can fly off, chips can come off of that and get into your eyes, sawdust, all of those things. Wear your safety glasses. That's probably safety rule number one, and probably the most important. All right, safety tool basics. Buy the right tool for the job. Go to the tool crib and pick the right tool for the job, not the first one that you come to. Buy quality tools. When you pick out a tool that has the potential to hurt you, you want to make sure it's from a good manufacturer and it's not going to fail on you. And I'm not discount tools, but make sure that you're doing your research to find out whether the tool is of good quality. That's an important thing. And get what you need to do the job correctly. Maybe you're working outside and it's wet outside, and I'm using a corded tool. Well, you need that portable GFCI to prevent you from getting shocked. Store your tools so they're in good shape when you're ready to get them and put them into use. Make sure they're in good condition. Inspect them every time, and keep them clean. Keep them dry. All of those things will produce a tool that's not going to hurt you, and it'll do its intended task. Just a couple of things about the right tool for the job. If that wrench ain't going to cut it, or the breaker bar, and I'm thinking about getting a cheater bar to make it a little bit longer to get a little more leverage, it's the wrong tool. Go and find the right tool to do the job, and if you have to, go purchase the right tool. Cheater bars put us really at risk. That's probably going to over torque that tool, and it could fail and hurt us or hurt the things that we're working on. When a tool is damaged, throw it away. Know the limits of your tools. This jack probably isn't up to the task, as we can see, and so it needs to be thrown away. It's been damaged, and when you throw it away, I always say, put a dirty diaper on top of it in the garbage can or something like that, so people won't go and fish it out of the garbage can. If a tool's no longer safe to be used, let's get it in the can and make sure nobody fishes it out of there. The right tool for the job means that your hand is not a hammer. That means that screwdriver is not a chisel, and your chisel is not a screwdriver, and that crescent wrench is not a hammer as well. Use the right tool for the job, and you'll be happy with the results. Inspect your tools every time. Every time you pull a tool out, look it over and see, is it damaged? Is there a problem with the tool? If it's a corded power tool, is the cord in good condition? Does it have that third prong on there to ground the tool? Are the guards in place? Think of a circular saw. You've got a guard in place to keep that blade covered when it's not in use. Well, I've seen people over the years take a little wedge of wood and prop that open so the guard's out of their way. Well, that leaves that spinning blade exposed, and if you happen to bounce that into your leg or set it down on the floor, it's going to do some damage to your leg or the floor. So think about those things. Look for loose or missing parts, cracks, and damage like that. When I look at a hand tool like a chisel, look for a mushroomed head. After you hit that enough, the top of the chisel where you strike it starts to mushroom. Well, we need to address that and grind those mushroom edges off so those parts don't fly off and injure you or somebody else. If there's tape on the handle of a tool, like a hammer, that's a problem. We shouldn't be using that. That means there's something wrong with that. And there's also something wrong with somebody who would put duct tape on a handle of a tool. It kind of ruins that handle when we do that. So take a look today. Go out to your tool crib and look. We've taped up the handle on something, or we've got tape on a cord on an electric tool. Pull it out of service. All right. A few rules around this. A sharp tool is a safe tool. Now that may seem a little bit counterintuitive, because you think, well, sharp things cut me. Well, sharp things are predictable. They do what they're going to do. Yes, you can get cut with a sharp tool, but in general, I'm not going to have that accidental cut like you would with a tool that isn't sharp, a tool that has ragged edges on it that might slip unexpectedly. So a sharp tool, a clean tool, is a safe tool. Cut away from yourself, cut away from others. I used to hear a saying on that: cut towards your buddy, not your body. Now that's not right, but I think it gets the point across to people. If you've got a sharp tool, cut away from yourself and don't go towards other people. There's periodic maintenance I may have to do on tools. Some things have to be lubricated periodically. All of my tools, if I have metal tools that are prone to rusting, I should keep them clean and dry, and in some cases lubricated so they don't get rusty and don't get in bad condition. Know how to keep your tools in the best condition. Keep them where you can find them and where you can easily inspect them. If there's a problem, throw it out. I'll keep saying that a few more times. Use the right accessories for your tool. You can see in this picture here that they've got the wrong disc on this angle grinder. Use the correct disc, bits, blades, all of those things, because like in this picture, that disc that's on there will probably be over rotated. It will go too many RPMs for what it's rated for, and it may fly apart. And when it flies apart, there's no guard on it to prevent those pieces of shrapnel from coming back and slicing us open. So make sure that we're looking at those tools and verifying, hey, what's the RPM? What size? What's the maximum size that should be in this tool? And don't modify your tools. Don't take the guard off of that angle grinder to accommodate the wrong tool. And let's not exceed the capabilities of the tool either. If it's a jack and it's rated to a certain weight, well, I need to know what that is, and I need to know what the load is that I'm putting on. We'll talk about that one in a second. Proper tool handling, some basic rules around that. Clean hands prevent injuries. If I've got grease on my hands or oil that could allow my hands to slip, dirt, things like that can cause me to slip and maybe cause injury. Don't carry tools in your pockets. We have tool belts for that. We have toolboxes for that. But every year we see a number of injuries come in where people have placed a tool in their back pocket, a screwdriver or a blade of some sort, put it in their pocket and forgot about it, and then sat down or walked into something, bumped into a table, and had that tool actually poke them or cut them. So all right. Don't carry the tool by its cord or its hose if it's electric or pneumatic. Carry the sharp end down. Don't point it out towards others or towards yourself. And just like with a firearm, don't walk around with your finger on the trigger. If it is a power tool, keep your finger in a safe place away from the trigger so it doesn't go off unexpectedly. Have good footing when you are using hand tools and power tools so I don't slip. That could also lead to injury. And when I'm done, make sure that tool is clean and put away correctly in the location it's supposed to be. All right. Some basic things about our work site. Wow. Let's let people know what we're doing. If I've got a task to do and I'm going to be working on a machine, I'm going to be using a tool, let the other people in the area know, hey, I'm going to be out here with a grinder and I'm going to be blowing sparks all over the place. So everybody needs to be wearing their PPE and you need to stay clear of the area. Let people know what's going on so they don't walk into a hazard that you're creating. Keep people out of the way. Housekeeping is a key part of that. Slips, trips, and falls are really a lot worse if you've got a tool in your hand. If you're using a tool and I slip and fall, that can be far worse. I also need to look at the work area for fire prevention. Are there ignition sources that may ignite the gasoline as I fuel up my chainsaw or whatever the tool is that I'm using that's gas fired? Also need to look for electrical safety. Are there cords or are there problems with an outlet that may cause a shock or not have proper grounding? Look for all of that before we start the job. That's part of our startup procedures every time. Let's talk about some specific tools: hammers, files, and chisels. Well, files are great tools, but they're only to be used a certain way. They are made of really hard metal, and that hard metal can actually splinter if it is struck very hard. So if you use your file as a hammer, chances are that it's going to break and it might throw out shards of this really sharp hard metal and cut you. Files need a handle. Most of these files, when we purchase them, they don't come with a handle. We have a nice wood handle that we put in place there, but we have to do that. And we have to be responsible to ensure that that's in place. If I don't, I've got that nice pointy end out there that as I'm forcing it, trying to file whatever it is I'm working on, that could end up poking into my hand. Once again, proper bits, blades on those tools as well, and maintain those mushroomed heads on chisels. We're going to talk about jacks and hydraulic equipment. Sometimes we use hydraulic jacks or mechanical jacks to lift a piece of equipment, a vehicle, so we can get under it to perform maintenance. Now, that's pretty standard stuff, but there's some controls that we have to put in place. I got to know that that jack is capable of lifting the load. I got to know that the jack is in good condition. It's not damaged. So if it's a hydraulic jack, it shouldn't be leaking oil. There shouldn't be fluid coming out of that. That might be an indication that a seal has failed or partially failed. And then when I put a load on it, it may completely fail and drop the vehicle on top of me. So that needs to be done before we ever use it. When I've lifted the vehicle up, I need to place jack stands under the vehicle, and this is just like lockout tagout. I've got this energy source, gravity, lifting that vehicle above, and it could. Boy, there have been some really tragic stories around the state of Utah where people have been killed when a vehicle fell on top of them while they were under it working on it. So make sure your jack stands are in good condition. Make sure your mechanical jacks are in good condition as well before we start lifting. Those jack stands, we need to document inspections every 6 months that they are in good condition and they haven't been bent or damaged in any way that would cause a problem. Okay, let's keep going here. Here is we're going to talk about air tools. Sometimes we use this type of a nozzle to clean the work area that we're working on, or blow the sawdust off of a saw or a drill press, and clean off a piece of stock. Now, that's appropriate if we are doing it the right way and doing it a safe way. Well, what does that mean? Well, few rules around that. Number one, don't blow yourself off, right? Don't use that air nozzle to blow the dust off of your clothing. That has the potential to shoot objects into your face, into your eyes. There's also the potential for embolism if we happen to deadhead that nozzle onto our skin. It can force, if we're talking high PSI, it can force air through our skin into our bloodstream and cause an embolism that could literally kill us. So how do I prevent that when I'm using this nozzle? Well, you see that little end that has been removed in this nozzle. I'm saying that they're in the process of putting it on. This is what we sometimes call an OSHA nozzle. That means it meets the OSHA requirement of not developing pressures at the end of that nozzle greater than 30 psi if it is deadheaded. Now, I say in here, don't deadhead. What does that mean? If I take that nozzle and I put it up against my skin, that's called deadheading, and it could cause that embolism. But what this nozzle, this safety nozzle does, it has those little holes that you can see that will allow blow by. And so even though I may have 100 plus PSI, maybe 150 PSI in the hose, in the line, if it's deadheaded, it won't develop more than 30 PSI. How do I know I've got a true OSHA nozzle? Well, a lot of those will be labeled. They'll be marked on there. And I think this is an important part, you can check them. How do I go about check them? Well, you can use a little tool like this. It is a gauge. Sorry, I can't get it to focus there, but it's a gauge that has a little rubber end on it that you can place deadhead on the nozzle, and it will read if it's in the green zone under 30 psi, and that will verify that. I bring this one up, and I'm not plugging the company, but I kind of am because they gave me a free gauge. If you go on to Guard Air, I think it's .com, I'm not sure, but search for Guard Air, GUARDAIR. You can request your own free testing gauge. So there's the bonus for the day, Guard Air.
I just threw that link in the chat, so everyone can go and grab that if you want to.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. All right. Let's see. I think we covered up. Make sure you're always wearing your PPE with these using compressed air, because it's going to be blowing stuff around there. Keep your hoses safe from damage as well. Any connections in pneumatic systems need to be securely connected. You can see where the type of connector that we have in the big picture, they've actually wired those together so they can't disconnect. We should not be using band clamps, or commonly known as hose clamps, for pneumatic systems. That's not appropriate for that. Watch the RPM rating for your equipment. A die grinder may be rated for 20,000 RPM. Well, you've got to have a very special disc to be able to take 20,000 RPM without flying apart. So make sure you got the right tools for the jobs. Okay. Oh, and retainer clips for if I've got air chisels in that, so the chisel doesn't shoot across the room. Let's talk about nail guns. Sorry for the picture. No blood, so I think we're okay. Um, but nail guns, wow, they are the source of some really horrific injuries that happen on construction sites, and this happens to novices, but it also happens to professionals that use these very often. And the novices are probably not trained and familiar enough with them. The professionals are too familiar with them, and sometimes they do what we say in here, and they disregard the safety features on there. There is a safety feature that you've got to put pressure on that against your substrate before it will shoot out. Even if I'm pulling the trigger, that needs to stay in place. If I take that off, anything that it bounces, anytime I grab that trigger, it's going to shoot, and it can launch nails and injure people. Also think about your settings on there. If you're somebody that is working and you're putting sheeting on a roof or something like that, well, you may have set it so I can do multi, and you can speed up your work that way. But if you're doing something and your hands are close around, I'm putting some lumber together, and I'm having to get it in just the right place. Don't have that on multiple hits. I want that on single, because I may exercise at one time, and it may bounce and shoot a couple of times and maybe shoot a nail through my hand. So be smart about using those, and know what you're getting into. Okay. Oh, and know what's on the other side of the wall. How important is that to know what's over there? Because sometimes you miss the stud, and it will shoot directly through that sheeting, and maybe somebody's on the other side of the wall, or maybe your hand is on the other side of the wall holding that lumber straight. So know what's on the other side and where you're shooting. Also know the capabilities of your equipment. Some of this equipment is really torquey on electrical equipment. So on electric tools, we got to make sure the cords are in good condition. Don't carry it by the cord. Don't yank the cords out from a distance. That will damage the insulation. And then we're either going to throw the tool away or have to replace the entire cord. So let's be smart about how we use those cords. Keep the cords away from heat, oil, sharp objects, all of those things. Make sure that third prong is on the plug, so we've got proper grounding. And keep these tools away from water. They are not designed to get wet. If they do, the chance that you get shot goes way up. So how do we reduce the odds of that? If I'm working outside, I need to have a ground fault circuit interrupter. They have portable ones that you can just plug into a regular outlet or a generator that will give you protection if we happen to have a fault in that system. Or we can plug into an outlet that has a GFCI. We just need that. I got in an argument with Bill Nye the Science Guy about ground fault circuit interrupters, and when his crew had laid a bunch of extension cords into puddles when he was doing a shoot at one of the places that I've worked in the past. All right. Electric tools, make sure that you're unplugging these tools when you're changing out a bit or a blade or anything like that. Unplug those things so it doesn't unexpectedly turn on. Your tool should have a constant pressure switch on it. That means it requires that I have to pull the trigger, and if I let go, the machine's going to turn off. All right. Once again, those blades on the circular saw, the blade guards on the circular saws, and other of these portable equipment that's out there. So battery operated tools, we've replaced a lot of our corded tools now, because the lithium batteries have gotten so good that we can have really good quality, lots of torque with these tools. Pretty amazing tools that are there, but they have their own hazards. So when I'm charging these tools, make sure you do that in a combustible-free area. The chance that you have a fire from charging batteries is really there. It may not happen today, but over a long term, and especially if a battery gets damaged, we could have what we call a thermal runaway reaction that will light a lot of stuff on fire. And so make sure charging areas are away from places that we don't want to burn down. Make sure that our charging is done through a charge controller, and also make sure that when we replace our batteries from our original equipment, that we're buying what the manufacturer sells as a replacement. Don't go buy knockoff batteries unless they are UL listed and they're specifically for that tool. Be really careful about low cost batteries, because that's where fires happen, or with those. I produced a full webinar on lithium battery hazards and how we can deal with those. So if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a link somewhere up here. Go and watch that. Let's see. On to the next thing, angle grinders. We talked about these and how hazardous they can be. When those discs are over rotated, they're going too fast. Make sure your RPM is right, make sure it's the right size for the job, and keep that guard on there. They can be adjusted, right? You can rotate them around. I hear people say, oh, I can't keep the guard on there, I can't get it where I need it. Well, they don't understand that we loosen up that guard and we rotate it to where we need it, and then we tighten it up, and then I can use the tool as intended and still be protected from the shrapnel coming out. Okay, and use the right material too. Not all discs are designed for cutting. Don't use a cutting disc as a grinding disc, and vice versa. Gas-fired tools have that carbon monoxide issue. So anytime I'm starting up something that burns gasoline or other fuels, don't do it in a confined area. Make sure I've got good, adequate ventilation there. Make sure our spark arrest devices are in place on those tools so they don't kick out a spark and start things on fire. Make sure that we've done some good fire prevention and cleared out the combustibles before we start a gas-fired piece of equipment. Make sure we've identified ignition sources and gotten rid of those before we fuel things up. And anytime I'm using gas-fired equipment, there needs to be a fire extinguisher there, closely accessible, so I can respond. All right. Ooh. See that guy using the top quarter of that blade? That's a problem. And these saws are a problem in many jobs. In a lot of cases, there is a better alternative tool than a demolition saw. And so let's look at our tasks and determine what we're going to do. Make sure we're properly trained on that. Mike did an awesome webinar on this subject. And if you're watching on YouTube, here's a link to it right here. And he will help you understand the ins and outs of cutoff saw safety, demo saw safety, and how to stay safe with this piece of equipment that really can kick back and hit you right in the face. Do not ever stand in line. Make sure you got your PPE on with these. These are dangerous tools, and they've got to be used by people who are trained and prepared to use them. Okay, just to wrap this up, everybody needs to go out today and take a look at your tool crib. Inspect your tools today and see what you've got. Don't identify a problem and the moment that you've got to have that tool right now. If you fix it today, then it'll be ready to go the next time. Know what your tools are, and know the job that you're doing, and use the right tool for the job and use it the right way. Do it right every time. Go home safe every day. And that's the message for today, folks. Mike, any questions?
No, we don't have any questions, folks. If you have a question, go ahead and type it here in the chat. Lots of information in a short period of time. So if you do have something that you're questioning or you're wondering, please just type it in the chat box and we'll get Jason to answer it here. Good stuff, Jason. Really, really good, really informative. Like you said at the beginning, it's basic stuff, but dang, it's important.
Absolutely. Basic things. We all use these things. We've got a screwdriver and some pliers in our drawer, and it's easy to get injured with something as simple as that. So, well, no questions?
No questions. Go get yourself a Guard Air kit, folks.
All right. Yeah, go get you one of those. Everybody go out and have a safe day.